Welcome to another broadcast of the Doug Dahlgren Show on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts can be downloaded free and on demand. Visit the archive sections at artistfirst.com. And now here's your host, Doug Dahlgren.
If you've got them, raise them up, because that was your toast for the evening, folks. I'm just sitting here in my green shirt wondering about the stock at Anheuser-Busch and Coors. Wish I had a little bit more than I do. At any rate, that's going to be all the humor for right now. It's time to get a little bit serious, and I know you're anxious to hear from our guest, Wig Nelson. There's a lot of new music out there. Much of it goes unnoticed. Now, why is that? Well, it's simple. There's no major label. Artist First believes in new music, and it strives to bring you that new music. I believe, and so do they, that the same thing is true in literature. Novels and books, even blogs, are self-published today. The folks here at Artist First already do good work bringing these works to you. I'm just here to kind of help out, add my twist to it. And now there's another truth I need to bring up. And that is that there's all manner of stuff out there. Some of it may be good, some may be not so good. That's true in both books and music. Now, Artist First doesn't judge, and neither do I. But there's sometimes that you feel like you need a scorecard, a recommendation, or maybe at least a map of where to go and what's worth your time. Well, that's what we try to do here. Point to those writers and artists that you may not have heard of, but you'd really enjoy once you did. This show will bring you writers, artists, and other folks from the worlds of literature, music, and maybe even from the world of art. Some of these guests might be people you're already aware of, names that you know. Many others, more often than not, will likely be names you haven't heard before. But you'll be glad once you have. Tonight should be a very good example of that. We're going to loosen up with our guests, have conversations with them, and you get to listen in. Hopefully, they'll tell us, and us, that's you and me, about who they are, what they do, and why, how they do it, what issues they run into, and we'll see if we can learn what their work means to them personally. Now, we don't want to get too deep, but just deep enough. As I've said, these guests will come from the literary world, and again, by that I mean authors and writers. Some will be from the world of music, composers, lyricists, and on occasion performers. Tonight, we start this program with all three of those categories rolled up into one very talented individual. Did you like that opening music? In the world of real radio personalities, they call that bumper music. You know, it's that neat little tune with the friendly voiceover. The song I'm using is called Thunderstorm Mood, and I'm willing to bet that most of you out there have never heard it before. It was written and performed by our guest for this evening, Mr. Wig Nelson. Wig's going to join us in just a few more seconds. Here with us tonight, from Indialantic, Florida, is author, composer, and performer, Mr. Wig Nelson. Wig, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Doug.
Tell me something. I know you're down, did I say it right, Indialantic?
That's right, Indialantic, Florida.
Excellent. Now that's down around Melbourne, is it not?
Right, just east of Melbourne, right across the Indian River.
What did you tell me the temperature was down there today?
Well, I think it was about 76 degrees and a little windy, a little overcast, but pretty pleasant.
I'm sitting here outside of Atlanta, Georgia, which is not exactly the Great White North, but we're in sweater weather. It's 43 degrees, drizzle, dark clouds. I'm a little jealous of you in the weather you got down there, but we'll try to get over that. Now, we've already established that you are a writer. Let's see, you've got how many books published currently?
Well, I have 6 novels and 1 book of short stories called The Odd Fellow's Home. And I have a nonfiction book, which is a how-to book, called The Little Shop of Lyrics. and it kind of describes how to go about writing lyrics.
So you've got quite a bit of experience in writing, and you're also a musical composer and a lyricist. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you perform your own music. In fact, that little ditty that we're using up front, the Thunderstorm Mood, you not only wrote that, but you play all the instruments included in that piece. Is that right?
That's right.
Wonderful. Goodness sakes. With all the music that you've composed over the years and everything, is there a particular niche or a genre that you would put your music in?
Well, I try to write in a few different genres, but I would say that if I were to label it into one label, I would call it folk rock, possibly folk rock.
Okay.
I like to concentrate on lyrics. I like to have something to think about. I would call it thinking man's music. I like to give a message. Where the lyrics, they say something that might be interesting. So I'd call it folk rock, basically. But some light jazz in there, and I do classical pieces. There's my newest CD is called Soundscapes, and a lot of that has a classical bent to it. So
now, Thunderstorm Mood, that's from Soundscapes, is it not?
Yes, that is on Soundscapes, right.
Cool. Our friends have been listening to some of that earlier, and what I'd like to do, if I've got your permission, is further introduce them to you and your music by playing one of your favorites of mine, okay? It's called Walk With Me, and hopefully they've got that queued up for us back at the studio, and if that's all right with you, can we play a little bit of that, or just play that song?
Certainly, that would be terrific, Doug.
All right. Folks, let me introduce this. This is Wig Nelson, and I think there's a couple of good friends of his that are accompanying him on this piece, but it's Wig's haunting and just very spiritual Walk With Me.
Saw me walk on water, could you place your trust in me? If you saw me heal a blind man, would it help you to believe? If you think that you're above her, be the first to cast the stone. If you find the will to love her, then she doesn't stand alone. When the sun no longer sails the heavens, when the moon falls helpless to the sea, would you like to carry on forever? All I ask is that you walk with me. On the many roads to heaven, you can find me on them all. But the castle built on evil is a tower bound to to fall. When you pass along the story, how the water changed your mind, will you sing about the glory that was never really mine? When the sun no longer sails the heavens, when the moon falls helpless to the sea, would you like to carry on forever? All I ask is that you walk with me. When the sky was full of fury, it was I who calmed the sea. That a ship of faithful sailors could forever walk with me.
And now back to the Doug Dahlgren Show on the Artist First World Radio Network.
Hey, Wig, thank you so much for letting us hear that. I'm just going to open this up. Tell us about that song. Tell us what was going through your mind when you came up with it and what that means to you.
Well, it's a spiritual song, Doug, and it's basically from the point of view, as a writer, point of view, which we notate as POV. It's from the point of view of Jesus, and he's just speaking to us all, and he's saying that all he asks is that we walk with him, and that's about all that we need to do, to put our lives in the right order, and that's basically the gist of the song.
Well, words and music, words and music, they say so much. I know your faith is very personal to you, but it comes out in several of the songs you've written, and many that you've recorded too. Is there any, you want to go into that any deeper?
Well, let me see, on my website, which is wignelson.com, within the music section of that, which is called Music Store, if you were to go there, you'll see there's 8 songs there that I just labeled Christian songs, and there's hot links there, so you just click on the link and the songs come up. So of those 8 songs, Walk With Me is one of them, but there's a lot of songs in there that I feel proud of, that I was moved to write them, and I've produced them and done all the instrumental parts, and wrote all the lyrics and sang all the vocals, and they're just songs that keep me centered in my quest for spirituality. They keep me centered. So nothing earth-shattering. Just simple messages to keep me centered and try to be a good person. That's for me. It's just to try to be a good person.
Well, they're beautiful to listen to, and I think the message comes through loud and clear. You touched on the 2 separate music players that are on your website. You want to go into any more detail, tell the folks what's on those different players and how to get the music there and listen to it?
Sure. within my website, if you just go to Music Store, you will get to what's called Wiggymusic, and my music company is called Wiggymusic, and it's all produced here out of Indialantic, Florida. Within that page, you'll come to two players, music players. Now, one of them has 5 or 6 dozen songs that are just called Wiggymusic, and you can scroll up and down, and the titles are there, and if you just click on the song, they'll play. Now, the next player below that is called Soundscapes, and that's my newest CD that is all instrumental music. Soundscapes has no vocals whatsoever. I took some time off as a lyricist to put together that album. And so those two players, or I call them players, they're boxes where you can just click on and the song just starts playing automatically. Those two players are on the music page. Now, on the bottom of the music page, also, I just wanted to mention this now that I have the opportunity. At the bottom of that music page is a link to my musical called A Feeling of Power. And when you click on that link, the first thing that happens is a player opens there, a box where all 17 songs are there of the musical. And you can scroll through and play those songs, but also, if you scroll down further on that page, the actual musical is there, all the text, and the songs are embedded where they belong within the text of that musical, with stage direction and the whole bit. And it also makes a mention of the players. It's an international cast of players, and their names are listed, next to the song. And I'm very fortunate to have some very talented people all over the world that contribute, to my musical.
Now tell us how you do that. You do long distance compilations here. You have people that work with you from great distances away over the internet or over the phone. How do you do that exactly?
Well, the internet is the key. This is something that we have available to us that wasn't it wasn't possible in the past. It would just be, you would have to physically be in the same location as someone in the past. Well, the internet has opened it up for us where we can collaborate just with the click of a mouse, and it's just an amazing thing. I can post a song, and I'll have someone say, I'd like to add to that. I'd like to collaborate with that. Let me send you a WAV file, and you can just add it in your studio, and you can edit it into your song. So, a good number of these people I've never met. They play on my music, and I've never met them in person. But I feel very fortunate that they share their talent with me.
And they just record their part, and then you layer it as you're compiling the soundtrack?
That's right. That's right.
I'll tell you what, the musical is very interesting because obviously that's a foot in both of the worlds that you live in. You're a writer and a composer, and have a story with the music to go with it. That just really covers it all. These days, you write music and novels. Which came first? What did you do originally? Either one, or?
Well, I've always been first and foremost a musician. I've played music pretty much for my whole life. When I was like 10 years old, I was the lead singer in a rock band. We all did that, and we were terrible at it and everything, but it was a lot of fun. And I was Mick Jagger when I was 10 years old. So I've always played music, and in college let me back up a little. My first instrument was drums. I also played drums in a rock band. I was a lead singer in a rock band. This is all when I was very young and not very talented, to be honest with you. And then in college, I bought a flute and learned to play the flute, and I bought a guitar and I taught myself guitar, and then I just started writing songs. I guess I was about 23 years old when I first started writing songs. So, I'm over 60 now, and for all that time, I've been writing songs constantly. That's first and foremost what I do, is I write music. Then I use literature as a break from that. You know, when I need to get away from music, and it's consumed my life, you know, to a point where I just need to take a breath. Well, I can step back and I can write literature. And the reason why I do that is because, you know, we all want to tell a story, you know. We all have a story inside of us. Everybody needs that outlet. And, you know, I would sure encourage, you know, anyone and everyone to put their hand at writing, you know, because it's a very rewarding thing. You know, it's something that I really enjoy, and it's a big part of my life.
People are intimidated by the idea, but it's communication. You know, we do it all day long, just different forms. And writing is the same thing. It's telling the story that you've got in your head and just trying to get it out there where other people can understand it. Yeah. So you write books to get away from songwriting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you do one or the other. I mean, you know, if I'm involved in a novel, that pretty much consumes all my time and energy, and I may work well into the night on it, and you know, for a few months at a time, and so I'm really not in the studio producing music at that time. But then once the novel is finished, then I might just, you know, go back and either revisit some songs that I've written or record some new music that I'm in the process of writing. But generally just one or the other, you know, and I kind of spread myself a little thin in that regard, you know. Just if I would concentrate on just one or the other, I'd probably be better at it.
Well, I think a little modesty's creeping in on us here. There's another song that you let us use tonight. It's called The Writer. And I think it's probably a great transition. We've been talking about your music and songs, and we want to get into your novels and have you tell us a little bit about those. But before we go there, tell us about The Writer. Tell us how that song came about. And then, Corey, when he's through with that, maybe we can play that song for the folks.
Well, as most music, The Writer started with music before the lyrics. Just generally, the way I approach writing music is to write the music first and then the lyrics. I've done it the other way, but I would say 99% of the time I write the music first. And then once I write the music and I listen to it, and it gives me sort of an impression of what the song should be about. And what I was feeling at the time when I wrote The Writer was I wouldn't call it frustrated, but I was a little mad at myself for being behind schedule on a novel. You know, so I wrote the line, you know, something is wrong with the writer. You know, there's always plays on words with what I do. You know, so like wrong and right. You know, something is wrong with the writer. A song so long overdue. A turncoat who once was a fighter, who was always dead right about you, or something like that. But anyway, the thing is, I was a little mad at myself for being behind schedule, and so I wanted to write a song about a writer. So each stanza it deals with a past book that the writer has written, and it also deals with, you know, apathy, and it deals with being behind schedule, and you know, looking at yourself, taking a hard look at yourself, and you know, being less than happy with what you see. You know, because we're our worst critic. We're our own worst critic, and no matter what I do, I say to myself, well, you're not doing enough. So that's basically what The Writer is about. It's the frustrations of a person who's not really writing, you know, as much as he wishes he was. There's one line in there that someone brought to my attention one time, that it says, and now an old typewriter lies on a rickety desk by the door. Now, instead of saying an old typewriter lays on a rickety desk by the door, it says an old typewriter lies. Now, I don't know why I wrote that line, but I mean, it's also, the typewriter is also telling a lie. And the lie is that the writer is a writer, you know, I mean, it's that the writer is someone who produces something. So for that idle typewriter to be sitting there is a lie, you know, so I don't know if that happened by accident or not, but that happens a lot with my writing. I'll write something and someone will say, "Oh gosh, that's brilliant." I'll say, "Gee, I didn't even know I did it."
Now, you mentioned apathy. Tell us about how did you describe apathy in this particular song?
Well, there's a line that I wrote in it, let me see, I have to reach back here. It says, and now the memories lay far too low in the dust on a yellowing page, and the flies on the wall always know they can die of a ripened old age. So you see the flies on the wall, they know that the writer he's not even going to get up out of his chair and go swat the flies on the wall. I mean, he can't even be motivated to do that. So it's a metaphor for apathy, you know what I mean? The flies on the wall always know they can die of a ripened old age. And that line just hit me that, you know, wow, there's a great metaphor for apathy, you know?
It is. It says it clearly. Well, if you'll let us, Corey, how about let's run The Writer and let the folks hear this song about the angst of a writer and the different moods and such that one goes through when trying to be creative.
It wasn't real China, the tea cakes were just make-believe. Was just turning 6, a number of tricks up my sleeve. It was back when the ghost had a bucket of blood in his veins. Now the echo of life is all of the best that remains. And now an old typewriter lies on a rickety desk by the door. The windows that speak for a life don't whisper the tales anymore. She was a dream that I missed as I slept through the night, sorting through darkness and courting imposters of light, stretching a gossamer hope of a tangible touch, knowing that I never learned not to promise too much. Something is wrong with the writer. A song so long overdue. A turncoat who once was a fighter, and always dead right about you. Lashed to the wheelhouse, the rope cutting into his wrists. He wished that the storm were a man he could meet with his fists. The water was rising, and through the black night it was raining. Just a matter of time by the cries from below, it was gaining. Now the memories lay far too low in the dust on a yellowing page, and the flies on the wall always know they can die of a ripened old age. The glass giants tumbled, and gas lines were jumbled and burning. No one was certain the land was still earthen and turning. It was too late for words as the circling birds were above us. With it all said and done, there was only the one left to love us. And now the memories lay far too low, in the dust on the yellowing page, and the flies on the wall always know they can die of a ripened old age. And now an old typewriter lies on a rickety desk by the door. Windows that spilled forth a light, they don't whisper the tales anymore. And the memories lay far too low, in the dust on a yellowing page.
And now back to the show with your host, Doug Dahlgren.
Thank you, Corey. Wig, that was neat. Tell us again now, that song's also available on one of the players on your website, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The first player, when you go to it'll say music store, and the first player is where you find that. You just scroll down till you see the writer. And I'd also like to state for the record, Doug, that anyone here who's listening to this show, if they like any of the songs on my website, they can get them for free as a free MP3 download if they just go to the Contact Wig Nelson button at the bottom of the page, and it's just a feedback area, and it allows you to send me an email, which will have your email address on it when you send me the email, and you just have to say, like, "Hi Wig, I really liked the writer, or Thunderstorm Mood, or Walk With Me. Please send me an MP3," and I'll be glad to shoot that back free of charge to anyone who wants to get some of Wig Nelson's free music. It's free to a good home. It's free for the asking.
Outstanding. And of course, I'm sure they can listen through any other of the songs that are on there and have the same thing on those, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Folks, you'll love having those on your iPod or whatever. So as soon as we're done here tonight, I hope you'll go to wignelson.com, go to the music section, and start going through those music players and pick out what you want. I mean, that's a super offer there. Now, anybody, listening to the writer, anybody that's ever tried to put a story down, whether you're in high school, college, or actually trying to sell a book, anybody that's ever put a story on paper can relate to the lyrics in that song. You've said before, I think you said you've got 7 novels in print, and I assume these are also in Kindle format. Is that right?
Yes, they're in the Kindle store, and I'd like to mention that for the remainder of the month of March, I have reduced all of the songs down to 99 cents. They normally sell for $4.99, but as a promotion for your radio show, Doug, I decided to lower the price down to 99 cents for the remainder of March.
Now, you said songs, you mean your books, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, okay. Well, we want to talk about those. What was your first novel?
I think The Psychic was my first novel.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've always been interested in kind of like psychological fiction and suspense and that kind of thing. Things that are a little far out. when I was growing up, I was a real fan of Outer Limits and Twilight Zone and all that kind of thing, you know. So,
oh, yeah.
So that's kind of what I like to write. So the first time I tried my hand at it, I did kind of a psychological fiction story called The Psychic. And for the background of that, a friend of mine, he gave me a few buzzwords, and he steered me in a few directions. One of them, he's a psychiatrist, by the way. His name is James McMahon, Dr. James McMahon. And he told me to research Philip Zimbardo, a UCLA psychological, and I did that, and that's a really fascinating experiment. Let me see, I'm getting another call in here, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But anyway,
they're calling to tell you how good you're doing.
There you go. And anyway, so it's a really interesting thing to look up. Philip Zimbardo. He's the doctor in UCLA, and he did an experiment in 1971 with 24 students, where some would play the part of prisoners and some would play the part of guards. And they found that when the guards actually put on a uniform, their personalities changed, and they became just different people, and they were cruel to the prisoners. And some of the kids really had some difficult psychological effects from being involved in this experiment. And so I was moved by that, and I thought, oh my gosh, people get really reprogrammed. So this basically what this book is about. The Psychic is about a very bad man, because we all like to write about very bad men. We have to have our villains. So he's a very bad man, and he uses multi-sensory stimuli to bring about personality reconstruction. And so he uses sound by his little pinging from his wristwatch, and smells and sights, and some psychotropic drugs and this and that and everything. So that started me off there in that direction. Then a couple other buzzwords that my friend Jimmy McMahon told me about were the Hilgard scale, which is a scale that measures your susceptibility toward hypnosis. It's from 1 to 5. That's the Hilgard scale. Then also some research that I did on a man named Ebbinghaus, and that was about, it was sort of Pavlovian. It was the fixed interval stimuli. You can reprogram someone to remember things if you give them that stimuli every 24 hours. And if you don't give it every 24 hours, then they can lose. There's a 50% chance they'll lose that conditioning. But if you keep the fixed interval stimuli up, then you can reinforce that programming, or that education or re-education, if you will. So long story short, this bad man is changing the personalities of people, and I've had people say that they've had nightmares after reading this book, because they're not sure, what's right, where reality stops and where, where the book stops and where reality begins. Because we all want to trust our senses. We all want to take security in that. But if we're in a place where we really can't trust our own senses, that's a pretty scary thing.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, now that's called The Psychic. And again, folks, you can see what everybody's talking about and see what Wig's talking about for, what is it, 95 cents, 99 cents? 99 cents. Just go on the Wig site and get the Kindle and find out what it's about. Now, Wig, I know that you have a series. Seems like every writer eventually comes up with a series, and you've got one that's very special, The Sirens. Tell us a little bit what came between, say, The Psychic and then going to the series writing of The Sirens. There's a whole bunch of books, I assume, that were in between there. Real quick, tell us what they were.
I'll just touch on it briefly. After I wrote The Psychic, probably the next book I wrote was Starry Night. And I'm a kid at heart, and I always wanted to have my own personal spacecraft. So I wrote a story where I had where this this guy's walking down the beach with his dog, and he finds a blue stone that's glowing, and it turns out to be a control stone for an ancient spacecraft that was ditched in the Atlantic Ocean eons ago, 100,000 years ago or whatever. So, long story short, he ends up having control of his own personal spacecraft. Alien technology, but no aliens around. The technology has outlived the aliens. They're long gone, but their technology is still here. So he has control of that. So along the storyline of does absolute power corrupt absolutely? Well, of course it does. So he gets in trouble with his spacecraft, and he's pit himself against the American military, with his spacecraft, and so that's kind of an adventure story, and it lends itself toward a great screenplay, but I just haven't gotten around to writing that. But so that's Starry Night, and then I did a short detective series called The Conga Player's Dues, and there's 4 stories in that book, and it's about an aging PI and his sidekick, the beautiful Marty Coleman, who's an ex-NSA agent. And they solve crimes and stuff like that. There's 4 stories in that book. Then the next book I wrote was called Jackson Hands, and that is about a very bad man also, because we all like our villains. So this guy named Jackson Hand is a very bad guy, and he creates a company called Jacks and Hands. And the Jacks are jacks of all trades, and they work for people in the service industry. And the Hands are like personal nannies and cooks and seamstresses and tutors and this and that. And these people come into your home, and they help you for $60 an hour. They're not cheap. To hire a jack or a hand is a very expensive proposition. But there's a dark side to the Jackson Hands too. They engage their unwitting employers into sexual situations and videotape them, and the blackmail letter is soon to follow. So that's Jackson Hands. I had a lot of fun with that one, and that's a fun read. You can read that in a couple hours. It's a short book. And then let me see. The Siren series, there's 2 books that are finished in the Siren series. The first one is called Sirens, and it's about some extraordinarily beautiful people that you might see in the world around you. Some people are just they're just, there's no other word to say it, they're just special. They're just like, they stand out among their peers, and they're just highly influential. Extraordinarily beautiful people, and they have the ability to change the will of other people, and we see this in our society all the time. So actually in this book, their origin comes from a different planet, the planet Siren, and they came to Earth 4,000 years ago in the Giza Plaza in Egypt, and there were only a dozen of them to start with, but now in our present day there's 486 of them. And they work for politicians, and they find themselves where they can use their influence in very very different ways. So anyway, and the next book in the Siren series is called The First Church of Siren, Mission to Earth. Well, after the Exodus, the Sirens go back to the planet Siren, and they build their church called the First Church of Siren. But they experience religious persecution on that planet Siren. And in order to escape religious persecution, they do an exodus back to planet Earth. And so it's like history repeating itself. Their first exodus was out of Egypt to the planet Siren, and then their next exodus is from Siren back to Earth. And the theme of that is just basically intolerance, and how intolerance is something that affects us all. And I think everybody likes to inject their opinions into their work, and I'm no different. So that's one of my pet peeves, is intolerance. If we could be a little more tolerant of everyone else, then I think a lot of the conflicts in the world would be resolved. Then the third book, And then the third book in that series, which is half written, it's called Online, The Return of the Priestess. Online refers to not the internet, but it refers to the collective bloodline of the human race. And it's a futuristic novel that takes place in the year 2245. And when people go online, they connect the collective bloodline of the human race to themselves through a port in their body, and they can change their physical attributes. They can change their height and their weight and their eye color and their hair color, and they can change just about anything that they want to, and they can redesign themselves. And of course, disease is a thing of the past, and people live to be 200 years plus, and and with all this longevity, the emphasis in that society is on art. Art is the most important thing, and everyone throughout the world, they try to contribute to that, and they gain credits for their confederation, the South American Confederation, the North American Confederation, the European Confederation. They gain credits for their confederation by creating art. So the third book is about, Online is about a futuristic society, and the gist of it all is basically man against machine. The machines they've pretty much taken control in the future, like there's many books that have that same theme. And I think that it's somewhere that we're really heading. There's a thing that people write about called the singularity, which they hope will come about in the year 2030, where man will meld with machine, the combining of man and machine. And so you can download your mind into a machine and live forever. And I think this bothers me to the point where I think that God has other designs for humanity, and I think that the gift of life is just that. It's a gift, and for us to say, well, thanks anyway, but I don't need you anymore because I'm going to live forever, and I think that the melding of man and machine is something that we should take a hard look at before we do it.
Oh, man. So anyway, the first two books are out there, so people can get started while you're finishing this online. They can start with Sirens and then move right along to First Church of Siren. And by the time they've read those two, you think you're going to have online available?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Listen, I want to transition right quick. We're getting kind of short on time here. Corey, I'm aware of that. You're a fairly private guy. I understand that. You told me that in past years you were what you referred to as a bar star, but that you left that life. You're obviously very talented and could play anywhere that you really wanted to today, but you choose to do it in this manner. So without playing commercially as an outlet, what other hobbies do you have, real quick?
Well, I'm an avid golfer. I try to golf twice a week, and I walk my dog just about every day if I can. I have a beautiful Springer Spaniel that I walk, and I like to take trips with my wife and go to historical sites, and maybe learn a little bit about history and possibly include those into my books.
I hear also that you used to help 8th graders. There was a special program in Florida schools. You helped 8th graders.
I used to teach writing to 8th graders for a thing called Florida Writes, and I'm currently helping some seniors in a school where my wife is an educator. I'm helping them publish their books. I'm always willing to help anyone with the publishing process. The contact button on my website, it says Contact Wig Nelson. That area shoots me an email, and if anyone has any questions they would like me to answer or help them with the publishing process, I would be more than happy to do so. The only thing I ask is that you pay it forward, and once you publish, you help someone else publish using the knowledge that you have.
And I can tell you people out there, I've known this man for about, 5 years now, and he means every word of that. This is one very giving, talented man. And his wife, Mary, is Mary there listening to us?
Yeah, she's in the other room. I think she's
Okay.
listening to the show, though, yes.
Well, hi, Mary. As Wig mentioned, you're an educator. And, of course, we already have heard about Wig and his levels. That's quite an intelligent household. I hear that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Real quick, you got about 30 seconds. Tell us about Corey.
My son, Corey Nelson, is he's graduating from the University of Florida Med School along with his beautiful wife. She's also graduating from the University of Florida Med School in May of this year, and they're matching on the 21st, which is next weekend. Is the match day for all MDs in the whole country of the United States, and on match day they all find out where they do their internship. So we're very, very proud of them. My son Corey and his new wife Carolina Vac, and she's from Brazil, and they're both very, very brilliant kids, and we're very proud of them.
Most families would just do anything to have a doctor in the family. You're going to have two.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, listen, Wig, I thank you so very much. This has been a real honor for me. I thank you for taking the time to be on here with us tonight. We will do this again because there's much more to this man that you people need to know about. And once again, please go to www.wignelson.com, and there's two directions you can go on that website, one to learn about his novels and the other way to learn about the music. So go play with that website, learn about it, and just have a ball. Wig, anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I'd just like to thank you, Doug, for the opportunity to reach out, because it's all about readership, It's about exposure. A book doesn't do us any good, and a song doesn't do us any good unless somebody's out there to listen to it. So,
amen, brother. Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very much. And listen, we want to thank Corey sitting on the board for us tonight. Corey King, appreciate your help. I know I probably stumbled my way through this one, and I do appreciate your patience with me. And for the folks out there, I hope you enjoyed this first edition of the Doug Dahlgren Show. For those who are Irish and still awake, may your pockets be heavy and your heart be light. May good luck pursue you each morning and night. And with that, I say good night, and we'll see you in 167 hours. Take care.